And then the fact that it flipped back and forth between so many different storylines, and there were a lot of flashbacks, and there was quite a few different time periods, if you could keep up. And then a good chunk of it, I would say maybe a quarter to a third, was in Mandarin. So it really connected the old world to the new, and we just hadn't seen that before. I think for myself, when I first read the book, while Amy was still writing it, incidentally, I had just come back from working with Steven Spielberg and Kathy Kennedy on a movie called Empire of the Sun, and Kathy took me to New York, and we met publishers, and they handed me this 3 discrete chapters of this book they had just bought for a lot of money, and I read it, and I was already sobbing, just like you were probably after the movie, because I had never read anything that was so close to my personal life. You know, it just didn't, and I almost felt frightened because it was like exposing. I felt like I was turned inside out. So, and I just had, I was a baby producer, I had no idea how I was going to get it done, but I contacted Amy, and we met, and she started sending me chapters as she was writing them. And I just said, I'm going to help you get this made into a movie somehow. And years later, it happened. It was, we took it around to all the different studios, and only one actually greenlit the movie. It was Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was running at the time Disney. And he made it. That back then, they made really interesting movies for moderate-sized budgets. They don't do that anymore. But it was just kind of, pardon?
We were cheap.
I know, you're too expensive now. They're all so successful. We can never afford you. It would not, I don't think, and I think that's probably why people constantly ask, why is this movie, a movie like this never made again, or a sequel, or this or that? I think the economics have changed so much, and the studios make these gargantuan franchise movies, and it's very, very, this would be considered an indie movie today, but even indie movies, you know, without stars, which they weren't at the time, and now they are, but they just don't get made for the kind of budget that Disney gave us, and they certainly don't have the marketing budget. So we are grateful to have found the studio at that moment in time that was willing to take us on.
Thank you so much. So I will be introducing everyone as I have a specific question for each person. So Ming-Na, at the time you had so she played June Jing-mei in the film. At the time you had recently graduated from Carnegie Mellon University, had never worked on a film before, right? A big budget film. And what was it like landing the starring role in the Drama Club as your kind of debut?
You're correct in that. I've only done like low budget, you know, independent films, and this was a big one. And for me, I had read Amy Tan's book on a beach in Hawaii, and never read a book where I felt it was speaking directly to me. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was alone in my upbringing as an Asian American. And I remember saying, if they ever make this book into a movie, I just want to be a part of it, even as a PA, even at, you know, so without any inkling about actually being in the acting part of it. So getting the role was just one of the most amazing gifts, thanks to Janet and Amy Tan and Ron Bass and that guy, Wang Wang. Nah.
What was it like working with Wang Wang?
Oh, you want the truth?
Yes. It's been enough years.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, for me, it was all a new experience. You know, meeting amazing actors, or actually I should say actresses that've been around, like France and Q and Psy, you know, and just realizing that they had already, Lisa, you know, that they paved the way for our generation. You know, I'd just been fresh out of college, so it was such a treat to be in that community with all these other wonderful Asian actors, and I was thrilled.
Thank you. So Kyu Jin, who played the mother, and you signed to William Morris Endeavor Entertainment when you first arrived, and you had already been an established actor in Vietnam. So there were very few roles for actors of Asian descent then. What was it like just coming here and coming to Hollywood and being an Asian actor in Hollywood then?
Well, I need 3 days to tell the story. It was a long journey, but anyway, I ended up in America when Vietnam fell into communist. I was sponsored into this country by the beloved actress T.P. Hedren. She brought me here, and I live in her family with Melanie Griffith and her, Don Johnson. Yeah, I lived there for months, and it was them and actor William Holden that, that whom I have met many years back in Southeast Asia. They was the one who signed me up with William Morris Agency and with the Screen Actor Guild, so that I am able to work in America. Now, talking about the Joy Luck Club, I never thought that I would be in the Joy Luck Club because I do not speak Chinese at all, Vietnamese. And there are tons of Chinese actresses around the country. But I remember at that time, I went to Mr. Oliver Stone building, where they do the casting for Heaven and Earth. And I was helping the casting director, Riza Bremen, right, to help to cast the Vietnamese for Heaven and Earth. And I met one amazing casting director across the room. Her name is Heidi Levitt. Yes. She's right here, Heidi Levitt. And she asked me that, come and join the audition. I said, no, I'm Vietnamese. I don't speak Chinese. He said, come in. So I did walk in. I met the whole table. Amy Tan, Ron Bass, Wen Wang, they all looked at me, and I was so nervous. I'm sitting there, and and Wen looked at me and said, they didn't ask me about the story, but they only asked me about my life. And then finally, Wen gave me the script and asked me to read it and come back the next day. So I came back, and Wen asked me, I'm thinking of the four mothers, thinking of you for the four mothers. Which mother would you feel that you like? I said, oh my God, I don't know. I feel myself, a little bit of me in all mothers. I feel like can be.
That's an actress stuff. I'll take any of those parts.
Honestly, Amy Tan, thanks to Amy, she wrote such a great story that she made all of us, we feel that is my story. This is me. She feel that way. So I take that, I feel myself in any one of this mother. And Wayne looked at me and said that I know your story. I think you should be Swan. Yes? Are you Swan? because of your own life. You are from Vietnam War. You came here as a refugee. That is what Swan is. So what do you think about Swan? I can't ask for more. So I became Swan. And I remember, to make the long story short, because we have Francine here, and so at the scene that when Mother Swan left the two babies in China, we have a very tough shooting day. I can't tell all the story now, very tough. But finally, after 2 days set up and solve all the problem with China and that village, we shot the scene. Everybody was so quiet, so cold, 5 a.m. in the morning. Wayne would not want to lose the sunset, the sunrise. So he hugged me and he said, Ching, are you ready? I said, yes. Anything you want to tell me? No, just do what you feel. I said, help me again, the line in Chinese, what do you call children? My children. He said, forget about the language, forget about the line, feel the way you feel it. Say whatever you want to say in Vietnamese. It's fine. So, if you see the scene, when I cry, I said, God ơi, that is Vietnamese. is Vietnamese. Yeah, and then
Trivia.
yeah, and then after the scene, I was waiting for the second take, and I look at him. He came, he hugged me. I said, the second one? No, done. Done, move. Okay, so that was the scene. So I would like to take this moment to say thank you so much for Amy Tan for such a great story, Ron Boss for such a wonderful dialogue, and look at all the cast. Each one of them, even today, I've seen the movie for 10 times, tears still came to my eyes. Thank you so much. And I'm honored. Thank you to Heidi Levitt. The show.
So we also have Franz Nguyen here and Lauren Tom, who played mother and daughter. And Franz, can you also tell us how you came to the film?
Well, I came to this country in, I guess, in 56 or 57, and I was literally not ready to become an actress. I didn't know anything. I didn't speak English, and certainly no Asian language. But I seem to have been a only property of 20th Century Fox that had slanted eyes, and so I was disguised into many different parts, including American Indian and Hawaiian and anyway, wherever they could find Japanese, even in those days. And so I was basically a multiple personality person. And then it came a long, blessed career that I was very grateful for, but I was still the only one. And then came along the Joiner Club, and all of a sudden I realized that there was a whole lot of wonderful young people with great talent, and there was a future for the culture, for the beauty, and the intelligence and performances that you have seen from those young people tonight. And
Not that young anymore.
so I think it was a revival in my soul of a very ancient culture and wonderful traditions, and it was just a wonderful experience, and I wish you all a wonderful life.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure you all know that she's
No.
she was the Asian American or Asian sex symbol and beautiful. You know, she was the epitome of the beautiful Asian woman. She was in South Pacific. She's so modest, but she was literally in just about every movie that had an Asian in it, and every man of a certain age had a major crush on her. I couldn't believe to be in a movie with Franz Nguyen. I mean, she's really a trailblazer for all of us.
And so, Lauren, you played a very kind of passive daughter that comes into her own, and you're in one of my kids' favorite shows, Andy Mack. Disney's Andy Mack with 3 Asian women, which is amazing. So you're a very strong woman in that.
Yeah.
So can you contrast the 2 roles, please?
Sure. So I thought it was just so amazing and different and respectful of Wayne to ask each one of us which character we related to the most and let us kind of choose in that way. And I told him that I was so shy growing up that I definitely related to Lena because I almost felt invisible sometimes. So then coming from that to playing this, oh, can I say bitch? I can, there are no kids here. But I'm not a bitch, but I'm just super strong and dry and tough in this show, Andy Mack. And what's so ironic is that it was written for, the star was supposed to be a white Jewish girl, but they happened to cast an Asian girl because she was so amazing. So suddenly, so the mother was always supposed to be tough, but now because I'm Asian, suddenly I'm a tiger mom. But it wasn't really written like
like that. I just am more the foil. So it's kind of nice to come full circle that way, to feel like, even in my real life, I still feel like a marshmallow, but I can play super strong.
Like, I feel like Dina also plays a very badass character now, also different from
Yeah, and so anyway, I feel very blessed to have been in both of these shows, because they are kind of groundbreaking in so many ways, and so I hope it keeps continuing to move the whole movement forward, and hopefully our generation is paying forward for the next one, just as you guys did for us. So that's the most thing that makes me happy.
So Lisa Liu was here earlier, but she had another engagement. But Rosalind Chow is here, and I just thought that scene in the rain was so powerful, so powerful. How many takes did you have to do in the rain?
Actually, it wasn't meant to be in the rain, and the scene wasn't working in rehearsal, to be honest. And I can remember I couldn't sleep the night before, and we rehearsed it and had extra rehearsals. I think maybe Heidi remembers that. I just remember like saying, "Oh God, please save me from this." Once the rain happened, I remember Wayne sticking his head in the dressing room and saying, "Okay, Rosalind, it's raining outside. Can we shoot this in the rain?" I said, "Oh, thank God." Yes. And he said, "You're as crazy as I am." And we went outside, and then we shot it until it stopped raining, which was, pretty quick. I mean, yeah.
I have to add, Rosalind's super heroic because she just had a baby.
Yes, poor Janet. I went straight from the hospital to the makeup test, and I remember walking into Oliver Stone's office with a brand new baby, and he was still in the, still had the hospital thing around his wrist, and I ran in there, and Janet looks at me and she says, "We have to do the makeup test. Don't you have another shirt? There's dress and all." And I said, "No," and she said, "Here, take mine." And she took my manky t-shirt, put it on her, and gave me this beautiful silk blouse. Makeup test. And I remember Oliver saw me and he's like, "Okay, you just had a baby? Okay. Well, you'll lose the weight, right?" I mean, he was kidding, but still. So yeah, literally, I think 2 weeks after giving birth, we were on the set. That baby was very much a part of that movie, whether we wanted him to be or not.
So good luck. Little Rolly was our good luck charm on set. And now he's at Georgetown, right?
Yeah. Oh no, he's in law school. 25. Yeah, it's been 25 years. So yeah.
Thank you. So this is Lucille Song and Lucille Song and Elizabeth Sung, and they were in this some of the best scenes, I think, in terms of kind of broadening both. So seeing Asian women as heroes, but also Asian women as kind of complex characters. So how did you feel playing the second wife, kind of in this very
I think
villainous role?
Understand her completely. I think growing up in Hong Kong in my time, a lot of my friends' moms, they're second wives. It's just very common. We don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. But that's the world that I grew up in. And I think it's a real honor to be, thank you, Janet, and thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Amy, for creating this story, and to be in the sisterhood of these amazing women. To tell the story of women that have no choice, to have to marry in order to survive. I think second wife is that character, and I feel so privileged, even though she's not a likable character, but I feel so privileged to be able to show that on screen, that at that time women do not have a choice, and this is how you survive.
And Lucille, how does it, thank you. Playing the grandma in the Joy Luck Club compared to playing the grandma in Fresh Off the Boat?
Actually, if you remember, I turned it down in the beginning. I said I couldn't play grandma because I hadn't been working since I came from London.
Right.
And it's 19 years I didn't work. And I wasn't trained actress. So I said, no, I couldn't do grandma because the last job I did in London was with Sammy Davis Jr. I was a young girl. So, and then Heidi said that I sent you the script, read again. Grandma was a very powerful woman. So anyway, Sai Chin was living in my house. I gave her my bed. She came from London to audition.
Yeah.
So we were rehearsing every mother's part. And she just, because she lived in London and I've been living here.
Right.
And I had a boutique and nobody wanted me, so I wasn't working at all. And then, so naturally I wanted one of the mothers, right?
Right.
Well,
But I made it.
no. Yeah, I couldn't get a mother, so I said no. Sai said, how can you turn down work? She's a very smart lady.
Yeah.
Then I was selling real estate. I was broke and I wasn't a good salesperson. So then I thought, okay, be selling real estate. So I accepted, right? And I was so nervous. I went to see 3 acting coaches, how to play grandma. I'm glad I did it. I was grandma ever since. That's right. I'm a mother to Rosalie Chong and Freaky Friday. But I
We
didn't
have final thought. Sorry, the next movie is actually coming in. So final thought, please.
No, but
Yes.
just real quick, because I want Heidi to please come up and, I don't know, you know, from behind the scene, she was she had back in those days to cast all of these Asian parts, male and female. If it wasn't, it was a real honor. And it was amazing. And you fought for all of that. Yeah.
Yes, and I feel like I'm one of them. Honorary.
Okay.
But I mean, it's an amazing opportunity, and I just wish I would have more opportunities to create these kinds of ensembles that are character driven about people, and I think for audiences today to be able to see you all in these very dimensional complex roles, and it's truth, and that's what we got, and we had the time. Thank you, Janet. I mean, we spent like at least 2 months going through the process. I had an associate who took me into Mandarin speaking communities to find people, and then ultimately, I think this is an important thing to note too, especially about casting today. Is like, yes, this was about Chinese mothers and daughters, but we went across the gamut to find the best actors who are Asian. And that we didn't get stuck into you have to be exactly from Hong Kong or exactly from Sichuan province or wherever, because we wanted to get the best actors. And I think when you respect the material and you have these actors who are incredibly trained, that they just embody the part completely, and you know, it's just it's a treasure. You are all amazing. Thank you.
We have really full house the next week. Anyway, thank you everyone. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you,
just
everyone.
one quick thing. I would like to thank Grace and Michelle Sugihara for this is their baby. And